everybody, I'm Corinne Blackstone and welcome to my craft room. I'm so excited to have you here today, and before we get started, be sure that you're following me over on TikTok. I will link that down below for you. In today's video, we're going to make a really fun shirt, and we're going to be making it look like a faux applique or like those little chenille patches that you can find from like Stony Clover. They sell them at Hobby Lobby, all sorts of things, but we're going to be using some StarCraft SoftFlex. We're also going to use a pattern, and we're going to be using Caesar Easy Puff. This is a really fun shirt, super easy to do. I'm going to show you how to design this, and we're going to talk all about how to layer this because there's certain things that you're not allowed to layer and how we can make it all work together. So let's head over to Cricut Design Space and get started.
Whatever we would do, we do it just for fun.
Working in Design Space, we're going to be using some text for this, and it's super easy to do. So I'm going to show you how we're going to make this really cute faux applique shirt. Now what we're going to do first is open up our text box, and you're going to want to type in the first word. So we're making the shirt say hello pumpkin. So the first word I'm going to use is hello. Now I'm not going to capitalize, and you'll see why in a minute, because we're going to use some special glyphs. So I'm going to use a font that is called Lovely Mood. I will link that down below, and also I can link it up in the video. You'll see it kind of up this side of the video. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go under my fonts, and I'm going to go into system. Now I did kind of play with this, so my font's already brought up, but if you have a big long list of system fonts like I do, and you know the name of your font, you can just type that in or part of it in, and it'll bring that up. So like I said, we're using Lovely Mood, and for this part, we're going to be using the script font. And then we're going to put in the word pumpkin. So for this one, I'm going to do it all capital. And I know it looks weird right now because it's still in the script font, but we're going to be using this as a font duo. So I want to use the Lovely Mood display font, and that's going to be the word pumpkin. Now I want to make this bigger because it's pretty hard to see that small, but also you'll notice that the way that this font is designed, the letters sit really close together, and I don't want them quite that close because we're going to be adding an offset to make these look like that faux patch. And it's really cute, but I do recommend moving those letters apart. So the way that I personally like to do it is I just use my letter spacing, and I'm just going to change this to a 1 and just see if that looks pretty good. And I think that that looks fine as far as distance. But because we're going to be adding an offset, we may want to go a little bit larger. So let's try 1.5, and we'll just really space those out. That looks pretty good. Now I'm working in a very large scale right now so that it's easier for you to see, but we are going to size this so that it fits. Now I'm going to make hello bigger really quick so that you can see, because the first thing we'll do is add our glyph because that's really fun to do. I use a free program called MainType, and I'll link it down below so that you can download it as well. But what it really does is it allows you to find all of those little extra fun things that you can add to your fonts very, very easily. So what I've done is I found my Lovely Mood script font here in my font list. And then over here, you can see that you have all the regular letters and things. But if you scroll down a little bit, you have little letters with hearts. Now I want to use the H here that has the heart at the front of it. So I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to copy it to my clipboard, and then I'm going to head back over to Design Space. Over in Design Space, you just want to replace the H with the one that we copied. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on my text, and then I'm going to click so that I'm with the H. I'm going to remove my H, and I'm going to use Control V in order to paste that heart. Perfect as that? Good to go. So now what we want to do is let's go ahead and add the offset to the word pumpkin. So I'm going to click on the word offset up here at the very top of our screen, and it can take a minute to load your offset, so just kind of keep that in mind. Now for this one, because we did make the letters pretty big, the 0.25 is going to work fine for the size that I want. But if your letters are smaller, you may need to make your offset a little bit smaller. But I'm going to click apply because that's about the size I want for this offset. Now I'm going to change the color of my offset really quick to a bright orange just so we can see it a little bit better, because before I resize or do anything else, that way you guys can really see what I'm doing, I need to slice this out because you can't layer over Puff vinyl, and we're going to be using Puff for our outside of our letters, and you also really can't layer over printable, which we are using as well. We're going to be using a printable vinyl for the word. So I need to make sure that I slice out the letters from the offset. So what I want to do is I'm going to select the word pumpkin and the offset, and down in the lower right hand corner, kind of left hand corner over here in the layers panel is the slice. You can go ahead and click that, and what it's going to do is it's going to remove the word pumpkin from the offset, and I'll show you kind of what it looks like here as soon as it's done, which it is. So I want to keep this because this one is going to be our pattern, and then I want to get rid of this one because we don't need it, and then this offset one, so this outline is going to be our puff. So I'm going to go ahead and slide this back in here, and you'll see that it lines up pretty good. Now with our hello, I'm going to go ahead and just make that a different color. I'm going to do like a light green on that. That's just going to be some StarCraft SoftFlex in like a lighter green color to kind of match with our design. Now, if you want to get like a preview of what it's going to look like, we can absolutely do that. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to select my entire design really quick, and I'm going to size it back down a little bit, just a little, so that we can kind of see it. And then what I want to do is I'm going to show you how to upload a pattern. So what I'm going to do is go to upload, and you'll see here where under upload you have image or you have pattern fill. I'm going to use the pattern fill option and click on that, and I'm going to click upload pattern. Now I've just taken the image from the website that has the patterned HTV that I'm using, which is 143 vinyl, and I'm going to upload it to my patterns. So go ahead and select that pattern design, that picture, and then click upload. Simple as that. That's all you have to do. Now it's going to take you back to your upload screen, and you're going to see that it doesn't look like it did anything, but because it's a pattern, it won't show in your uploads. Head back over to the canvas, and I'm going to show you how to get like an idea of what this is going to look like. You want to select the word pumpkin, so the gray part, and I first want you to change it to a print then cut design. Now you'll see that it doesn't really look like it did anything. Totally okay. What I want you to do is select the color here, and then where it says print type, you'll see it says color. Click that box, and you can click on the word pattern. Then all I have to do is select the pattern that I uploaded, and it's going to look really kind of big. This is not what it will look like because our pattern is quite large compared to what this is showing. So if you want to get kind of a better look at scale on your pattern, you can click edit pattern, and then this will actually change the scale of your pattern. So you can kind of see how it's scaling it over here. So I'm not exactly sure how big it's going to look, but I think that's a little bit too big. Like, see how it looks really huge? That's not quite right. But that's one thing you can do, is just kind of click in here, play with edit pattern, and you can just kind of mess with it. Now, sometimes it doesn't love to like change, and it does some funny things. Like you can see it really didn't change. So if I continue to click edit pattern, you'll see that it keeps defaulting to like a really big size. So this is just something that Design Space needs a little bit of work on. Now this actually looks slightly more accurate, so we'll go with that. Now from here, because I wanted to really see what that pattern looked like, I'm going to size the word hello to kind of fit within like what I want it to look like. I think I want to go a little bit bigger. And again, we do not want them to overlap at all because you can't layer puff and you can't layer the printed pattern. I think that looks like a pretty decent size for our design as far as like where everything is sitting. Now what I'm going to do is select my entire design, and I'm just going to size it down to fit on my shirt. So my shirt is an adult large, which means I go about 9.5. You can go a little bit bigger, really kind of up to you, the way you want it to look, up to you. Now, one more thing that I need to do is I want to change my text back to a basic cut. That way I don't mess anything up. Now, one thing to keep in mind is when you're using printed patterned from 143 vinyl, you are not going to mirror your image, and you're going to cut it with the color side up. You're also going to need a heat transfer mask for that product, which you can always reuse one from like some old HTV, or just make sure you have purchased some to go with your printed pattern. Now again, this one is not mirrored, so I'm going to select the other two, which is our Puff and our StarCraft SoftFlex. I'm going to select both of those, and I'm going to flip them horizontally. That way I don't forget to flip them for mirroring purposes for HTV, and that way Design Space doesn't mess it up either. Then I want to make sure that I save this before I do anything else. So I'm just going to call it Hello Pumpkin and click Save. I always like to save my projects before I move on. That way if anything gets messed up, super easy to just kind of go back to it and it's ready to go. Now I'm going to hit make it and show you what each of our mats look like, and then we're going to get ready to cut. Now the nice thing is all of these cut on the everyday iron-on setting, so that's a super easy thing. So this one first will be our printed pattern. Then this one is going to be Puff. And finally, our last one is Starcraft SoftFlex. So let's go ahead over to the machine and get ready to get this cut out. The first one that we're going to cut is our printable HTV. Now, what I didn't realize when I set up the design was the direction that this print was sitting on our paper. So I did turn the word pumpkin so that I'm able to place this onto my mat the right way, and that way the pumpkins don't come out looking sideways, because if I cut it like this direction, the pumpkins would all be on their side. So I just turned the print, like the word, just on its side so that it will cut correctly. Now again, remember that with printable HTV from 143 vinyl, you cut it with the print side up, do not mirror it, and it cuts on the everyday iron-on setting. Once this one's done cutting, I'm going to go ahead and unload and set that to the side, because for this next one, we're cutting the Puff, and this is Caesar Easy Puff. And I want you to notice, again, when it comes to HTV, shiny side down is no longer the saying. It needs to be carrier sheet side down, because if you'll notice, this side is super shiny. This side is matte. This is actually your carrier sheet side when it comes to Puff. Another thing with Puff is that I find it doesn't stick to a standard grip mat, so I use a strong grip mat for this. And if you've never seen my videos before, I always put a little sticker on my clear plastic. It helps you find it if you like set it down. It's a lot easier to locate a sticker than a clear sheet, but also it allows you to make sure that you're only putting one side of the sheet down onto your mat. That just helps keep your mat cleaner, and one side actually sticks better to the mat than the other. So that's just a quick little trick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load this. Again, you need to load it with the carrier sheet side down, which is this side, and you'll notice that this side is quite a bit shiny. That is actually your vinyl side. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this down. Now this doesn't look super orange, but it looks a little bit more orange when it's pressed. That's just sort of something that the Easy Puff does. So I'm going to go ahead and load this in, go ahead and cut this out. I'll get the green cut out, and then I'll show you how to weed everything. First, like I said, these cut on the everyday iron-on setting, and what you're going to do is weed out the background, and then you're going to need to weed the center of the letters. But look how easy this Puff weeds. It's so nice. Every once in a while you get one little spot that might rip, but it's super easy to weed. So I'm going to get all the middles of the letters out, and I see I got a little spot that didn't cut great. Occasionally that'll happen. I think I need to change my blade, but especially on these sharp corners, you do want to be a little more careful than I just was. Because with any vinyl or HTV, those sharp corners can sometimes be a little harder for it to cut really nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and just get this weeded out, and then we'll do the pattern next. Now with the pattern, remember that it is color side up, so what you're looking at will be a little bit backwards to what you're used to when weeding HTV. This will be more like what you see when you weed an adhesive vinyl. Now you do want to go slow, just like you would any other, and we're just going to go ahead and weed this out, and you're really going to start to see how cute this is going to look when it's all done. So you want to make sure that you get out the centers of the letters, which this is not the easiest vinyl to see, I will be honest. Pattern vinyl can be really hard to see where you're supposed to weed, so having a bright light overhead can really, really help. And then the last one we're going to do is just the hello here in this green. I believe this is green apple from SoftFlex, and it's such a pretty color. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one weeded, and then I'll show you how we're going to set it all up. The Gildan soft style shirt. This is a 65% polyester, 35% cotton shirt. So it's really lovely. And actually, I think I don't want to start with hello first now that I'm thinking of it. Let's go ahead and put down the pumpkin first. So I'm going to actually use the outline first, even though that's not the one that we're putting down first. I'm just getting an idea of where this is going to sit on our shirt. So I'm just gonna kind of put this down, and then I'm gonna line up the word hello with it as to where that hello is going to sit, just a little above the word pumpkin. You want to go about 3 fingers down from your collar, and then I try to center it best I can, just kind of using my hands. I don't like to use the t-shirt rulers, but I think that looks pretty centered. And then I'm just going to move hello over a little bit, and then I'll lay the pumpkin on top just so you can get an idea. It's a little hard to get the vision, but I promise you this is going to be really, really cute when it's done. Now, with our word pumpkin, we do need to use what's called a heat transfer mask. And that is this clear sheet, and this is what they call a heat transfer mask. It's basically a carrier sheet, but because the way this is printed, you'll have to add your carrier sheet. Now, for this one, it's not quite going to fit this direction, so I am going to cut it this way, and I just sort of lay my design under that sheet, and then I just kind of clip it off about where it should be. You can reuse these sheets, which is great. You can also reuse a sticky sheet from another piece of HTV if you have one, but at the moment I don't, and I don't want to reuse like my puff one because I need that one. So I'm going to go ahead and take this, and this is very similar to adding transfer tape to a regular vinyl, like an adhesive. You're going to peel the backing off of your heat transfer mask, and this stuff is going to feel kind of thick, a little bit heavy, but that's what you want. And then you can do one of 2 ways. You can either lay it face down like I do with adhesive, but with HTV I like to place it on top of it, and then I flip it over. And just like with adhesive, you want to burnish it down, and you do want to burnish pretty well, just to make sure that everything is well stuck down. So I usually go in a couple directions just to make sure everything's stuck to that sheet. Now, I will be honest with you, a lot of people struggle with this, including me, because sometimes it doesn't always want to release from the backing, but we'll see how it does. And sometimes if it's a little bit difficult to release from the backing, you can use your finger or a pin pen to really help. See how like I don't know if you could see, but the U sort of started to lift. I don't know if it's going to be too hard with this one. I'll link some videos up above that show me using some of the printed pattern when I did need to peel a little bit differently, because this one really is working beautifully, which makes me so happy. So that is simple as that, and now it's ready to be pressed onto your shirt. Now we're going to be pressing in layers, so we're going to press the pumpkin first, and then we're going to press hello, and then our last press is going to be our puff. Now I want to re-line up everything on the shirt just to make sure that everything is sitting where it should be, and I can tell you that right now it's very uneven. But I'm just going to lay everything down, and I'm going to grab the hello and line it up on the pumpkin. Remember, we want to be a little bit above the word pumpkin because of the puff. And then I'm just going to kind of move it to about 3 fingers down from the collar, and then I want to just center it on the shirt, which it's definitely not centered right there. Need to move it over a little bit. I think that's a little closer. Still think it needs to go that way a little, but I think it looks pretty good. It looks centered. I always hold it up, just make sure it looks straight, which it does. I still think it's this way a little much, but I think it's just because of the carrier sheet. So I always just sort of double check, and then I'm just going to kind of give it a little. I think that looks pretty good. Now I see that I can very easily press these at the same time. These are going to be pressed at the same temperature, and we're going to do just a quick press on these, which is going to make it so simple to do this layering. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that the vinyl, the HTV here from hello, is not over the transfer sheet for the word pumpkin, and then I want to make sure the hello one isn't in the way of the word pumpkin, which it's not. And then I'm just going to set this down and just sort of make sure that everything looks pretty well lined up. And if I want to move anything over, like I kind of feel like the hello is what's throwing me off a little. I don't know, I think that the hello looks okay. Okay, we're good. So these press at 285, but I'm going to press them a little bit lower at like 280-ish, because the puff is pressed at 280. So I'm going to do a fast press on these, which means just pressing for a couple seconds, and then we'll do the full press on the orange puff. I've got my heat press set to 284 right now. I will turn it down a little bit when it comes time to do the press for the puff. But what I'm going to do is make sure that this is fully on my pressing pillow. I do have a pressing pillow under this. And then I also have a Teflon sheet here on my heat press. Now I'm just going to go ahead and straighten this out, make sure it's all nice and even. Just going to push that over a little, and we're just going to press this for a couple of seconds. You don't want to press this for a really long time because you want to kind of stop it from doing too much shrinking. And then what you want to do is you can go ahead and remove your carrier sheets pretty much right away with these, which is great. Go ahead and peel those off. So I'm going to get this one off, and then I'll take off the one for hello. And you can see how easy those come off. Then the next thing we're going to do is line up our Puff HTV right over the word pumpkin. So for this, you're going to want to take your time, and I just really go slow. I make sure that everything is nice and straight and even. Now the nice thing is the puff is going to puff enough that I think even if you have a little gap, you're not going to see it. But I am going to try to avoid any big gaps. And I just want to make sure that there's no pattern kind of hanging out the edge here. I'm just going to move this section down just a smidge. All right, I think that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my heat press down just a little bit. I'm just going to hit the set button, and then I'm just going to turn it down to 280. And then this is pressed at about 15 seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and let this cool down for just a minute, and then we can press the puff. All right, we're ready to press the puff at 280 degrees for about 15 seconds. I do have, again, the pressing pillow under this, and we're using a firm pressure for this, so I do need to press pretty hard to get my press to close. Okay, it's all done. Go ahead and pull that up, and then you want to remove your carrier sheet right away, which is going to allow that to puff. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this from our heat press and show you what it looks like. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. It came out really, really cute. I'm going to get you kind of a side view so you can see that that puff is so puffy. Really cute. It's so hard to capture on camera, but it is absolutely adorable, super puffy, really, really cute. And I love how it looks with the pattern and with the little green up here. I think it looks adorable. This is such an easy project to do that anybody can do it. I promise. It's super simple. Just follow along. You can use any words that you want to. Now remember, puff is not to be layered, and neither is the printed pattern, which is why we made sure to do what's called a knockout method. Nothing is layered on top of each other, so this should hold up for a really, really, really long time. I just think this is so darling. I'm so excited about it, and I cannot wait to wear it. If you guys have any questions, by all means, please let me know in those comments down below. I'm always happy to answer those for you. Make sure that you're subscribed here on YouTube. That way you don't miss out on any of the fun, crafty content we have coming. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and as always, happy crafting!